John here with the Appalachian Channel, and I'm sitting in front of a home place that's long forgotten. It's been gone for probably about 90 years, because in the 1930s there was something that came to this area that changed everything. Life as the Appalachian people knew it was going to change and never be the same again. For the better or for the worse, it came, and it's still here to this day 90 years later. It's called TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority. It was a program put together by Congress and President Roosevelt in May of 1933. They were going to bring the New Deal to help a forgotten people, the Appalachian people who lived in darkness. Less than 2% of rural Appalachian people at that time had electricity, and it was going to come and help the whole area, not just for electricity, but it was going to help with erosion control and flooding and have water here when droughts would normally be here. They were going to put in a series of dams, and the first one was going to be the Norris Dam that's right here in my home county of Campbell County. And we're going to talk about how TVA changed this land and how TVA also used eminent domain. Was something that most people probably had never heard of, but it gave the government the right to make people move off their land. They did get paid. They got paid what they felt was a fair price, but many people felt that that price wasn't fair because they couldn't put a price on their heritage and their history, that they had been here for over 100 years, most of them had. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to look at this root cellar behind me, and we're going to look at the lake, which was a river, and talk about how power and electricity and TVA changed this land. Check out this beautiful root cellar. Sun telling us how long it's been here. Probably was built somewhere in the 1800s. It is still standing to this day. Even this huge tree that fell on it couldn't destroy it because it was so well built. But the New Deal Act that was going to come to the area was something that people were excited about until they realized, hey, we're going to have to relocate. And it was a source of contention with many people. Those that had property along the area that TVA was going to take for the lake was not happy about having to move. And especially those that didn't feel like that they were getting a fair price for their property. And it's been still to this day, 90 years later, TVA is still causing people to be upset because of their progress. And you know, it's one of those things we're going to talk about. Did TVA do wrong by having people move off their property? Or did they do the right thing by bringing power to 10 million people today and bringing change to the land that today they're able to now cultivate the property due to their cultivation of the land, but the training that was brought by TVA and how to fertilize it and grow crops. There was a lot of things that I didn't know about. I just thought the dam came to bring electricity, but it came to bring flood control, to have water in the times of drought, and to do so many different things that we're going to talk about in this video. All right, guys, let's take a look at this a little bit closer. I got to notice in here that they had put some metal in here for a lintel to hold these blocks to keep them from falling. And at one time, you can see here, it probably had a door on it. It's got 3 steps, and it goes down, about 3 feet under the ground. Probably only had very small, narrow shelves across through here to set the canned goods on, which would have probably been in mason jars most likely. So they would have put other things in there, possibly milk. If they had a cow, they would keep milk in there, butter, things like that. But look how big this mound is. It's a little bit different than some of them that I have seen, that it has these huge, massive rocks all the way around it right here that has survived. Probably, like I said, it could have been built in the mid-1800s. People started first settling this area in the 1700s. And look at that tree. That huge, massive tree didn't even make a dent in this root cellar. So I walked up here to see the base of this tree, and not for sure when or why it was cut, but this thing was massive. Look at that. I don't know. They say you can count the rings. I don't really see rings in this part right here, but it would be, I'm going to estimate that tree's 150 years old at least. There is what we call Norris Lake, and that is the Powell River, and that would have been a lot smaller at the time. It's still backed up by the dam right now, but the people that lived along the river used that river for transportation. They would go up and down the river. So many times they were people that were settling along the river here first in Campbell County, even before we even had a town in La Follette, because the river provided a way to transport things on boat. So let's go down and let's look at some other things down by the lake. All right, guys, I was walking down here to film a little bit more, and I come across these plants. Some of these look like house plants that would have been planted here. We've got this one here, and this might be a natural mint, but you see that a lot of times in home places. The home place is just right up there where we came from, right up there, and they were Easter lilies there. But yeah, on the old home places, you can always usually spot a home place by the Easter lilies, even if there's nothing left there. So these could be natural growing, but some of these things could have come from when this was an old home place. So let's talk about some of the things that upset some of the local business people here when TVA came. TVA came with a new approach. It was during the Great Depression was pretty much ending at that time, but there were such great poverty in this area that most of the kids only went to school to 3rd grade, 4th grade, and then they ended up having to go to work on the farm or even find jobs in local businesses sometimes. But back then in the 30s here in Appalachia, there was not much jobs to be found. They were maybe coal mining, maybe doing some logging, maybe some factory work back then, some textile work in the 30s, but it was not easy to find work here in Appalachia. So when TVA came promising to hire 10,000 people to work on this project, that was quite exciting to most people, especially when most people were living under the poverty level. Now, Appalachia is an area. A lot of people think of the Appalachian mountain range, but when I talk about Appalachia, I'm talking about the Appalachian region, which encompasses over a dozen states, and parts of them, not all of them, were deemed to be below the poverty level. I think West Virginia is the only state that was completely encompassed by the Appalachian region. So Appalachia region was mainly all poor people that had very low paying jobs, no industrial work, no factory jobs, no automotive jobs. So most people made very little. At the time, in the 30s, to work on a farm as a farmhand, you made 10 to 15 cents an hour. And if you worked in a factory, you'd make 25 cents an hour. And if you were a coal miner, you had a great paying job at 39 cents an hour back then. So this is where the problem came in, is how much TVA paid the people. So why was it a problem on how much TVA paid? Did they pay less than the local businesses? No, they paid far more, and that was the problem. Well, John, why is that a problem that they paid more than anybody else? Actually, like I was telling you there a minute ago, most farmhands made 10 to 15 cents an hour for unskilled labor, but TVA was hiring people in at 45 cents an hour, unskilled labor. And if you had a skill, they would pay you $1 an hour. So that was a problem with the local farmers and local businesses, because they were losing employees and they were going to work for the TVA program, cutting down trees and clearing property for the lake to come up. And they was also building the dam. So there were so many different things that TVA had for them to do that they could employ anybody just about that came, wanted a job. Now, they paying 45 cents an hour when people was used to making 10 cents an hour, they're making 4 times their pay. And how is that a problem? Like I said, the local businesses didn't pay that much, and the local businesses knew that they couldn't compete with those wages, and they knew that when TVA program pulled out, then those people would be expecting the same pay. So there was quite resistance came, not just from the people that had to move from their land, but from the local businesses also. Now that wasn't the only problem. There was another problem when it came to equal pay and equal rights. Let's talk about that for a minute and tell you what TVA did there. TVA enacted if they paid a white man 45 cents an hour, they would pay a black man 45 cents an hour. And that was quite the controversy around here because they wasn't used to paying the black folk anywhere near that. So that caused quite a bit of problems in that, this was the South in the 1930s, and racism was still pretty big around here at that time. And no one ever was used to seeing any black folk getting paid the same as white folk. And also, TVA wanted the black folk to work side by side with the white folk, and that became a problem. But I'm gonna climb down here and find another location to show you some of this beautiful property that TVA has, and it's accessible to the public. We come here and camp, and TVA bought millions of acres of land over the course of the last 90 years to make more dams and other types of places to generate power. Right now there's a methane plant that's coming in Tennessee, and they bought 280 acres for that, and the people in the area don't want that in their neighborhood. And you can kind of understand that, but the progress is for the greater good, TVA says. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll read those comments if I make it out of here alive. One of the other things that TVA brought to the area was boat docks and recreational areas. With 29 hydropower dams and 20 reservoir dams, TVA has provided millions of acres of natural recreation area and waterfront and water recreation to do throughout several states. And we get a lot of tourism here in Campbell County, all the way from the very beginning, the very opening of the dam in the 30s. People started coming to visit the lake, and that's one of the big parts of the summer economy here. So TVA is responsible for that. Right now the lake is at its low level for the season. They let the water out during the winter seasons, and in the summer they raise the lake back up for recreational reasons. But that helps also control flooding and drought. Gives us water from the lake right here. Our city of La Follette pulls the water that we drink right out of this lake. So they provided drinking water that wasn't here before. And also, like I was talking about recreational area, I'm not much on the water sports, but I do love coming to the lake and camping. And these rocks are something that Dustin and I really enjoy. And you can see here in the summertime, if I was here in the summer, I'd be sitting in the water with my head about right here on this rock. So when the water's down, it gives you the chance to look around the banks and see things you normally wouldn't see during the summertime high water levels. I'm gonna walk up here and see what's up here, guys. Okay, I just took the camera off the tripod so you can kind of enjoy climbing in with these rocks with me. And I know this probably makes a few people nervous, but I have been an outdoors type guy my whole life, ever since I was a kid. I'm used to climbing around in rocks, and fortunately, I can say in my 59 years, I've never had any stitches or broke bones so far. So I feel quite blessed that I have taken some falls, but apparently I can tumble pretty good because I've never been hurt. Oh, okay, yeah, not been through here. So just these rocks alone, guys, is worth exploring. The bad thing here is we get a lot of people that don't respect public property and public land, and they throw out their garbage, feel like this is a garbage dump, and they can just throw it out anywhere and everywhere. So that causes me a great heartache when I see that. On May 18th, 1933, President Roosevelt signed the TVA Act, and it became something that changed Appalachia. He wasn't just building dams, he was changing the world as we knew it here in Appalachia. He was bringing lights and electricity to a world that never had seen that before. Could you imagine living in a house without even a fan to blow a breeze in the summertime? Well, millions of people discovered electricity after the first dam was built. Now people could run fans and stoves and radios and TVs and all kinds of appliances they never had. They were introduced to a modern world. When I first started researching this project, I didn't realize some of the things that TVA did. I only knew about the Norris Dam and how it brought electricity and things like that to the area. But they did a whole other social experiment here in the area to help develop the Appalachian people, to bring them into the modern world. And they also trained the farmers how to farm their land and use fertilizer. TVA developed fertilizer for this valley so that people could once again grow crops, where for many years they had depleted the soil with no more nitrogen in it, no more nutrients to grow. They could barely feed their families. So TVA brought along new power for the area, cheap electricity that was never here before, that still runs and works today. I use it, everybody here uses it. So they brought electricity, they brought soil conservation and education to the farmers so that they could grow better plants. They also brought safety to the area. They stopped the floods and the droughts and brought that into check. And they also brought jobs that's still here to this day, 90 years later. All right, guys, in closing, I'd like to talk about the people that did not want to leave their land. Most people packed up and moved off when the check hit the bank. But Maddie Randolph was a hard case. She felt like she wasn't getting paid a fair amount for her property. From what I've done on research, she feels like that she had 25 acres and TVA was only surveying 14 and wanting to pay her for 14 acres. So she refused to leave to the very last day. The water was up on her step porch almost when TVA officials came and got her and her kids and took them off by boat out of the area to a new place to live. And if you'd like to know more stories about people that were relocated in different places and the effect that TVA had, make sure to leave us a comment and tell us what you want to see. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see you on the next one.